second session, we're looking at business services, and we refer to this as the glue for the on-demand economy. Here we're going to take a look at the question of how do you deal with the various changes in your business that result from the immediacy that consumers now expect. And so we welcome to stage Megan Barbin from Mighty Bell, Matthew Cowan, who is with BreezeWorks, CEO and co-founder, and Manoj Verma, who has recently joined Payability after leaving MasterCard. He's the Senior Vice President of Business Development. First off, let me ask you each to introduce yourself, your company, and talk a little about why you're in your business and how you got here.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you hear me? Cool. So I'm Megan Barbin, and I don't know where Susan came from, but when we look at this space, I think what we're seeing with a lot of these different marketplaces, Uber, Airbnb, TaskRabbit, even Tinder, is that they're creating tremendous value by introducing strangers to each other. And, effectively, what we're doing at Mighty Bell is quite similar. We are enabling businesses and companies and individuals to create modern social networks on mobile platforms
primarily professional communities, so that they're able to share and learn from one another.
They're learning from each other, and what we've found is that the really unique piece is that because they are strangers and they're coming together, they have a different set of needs than other customers, and that's really where the value is created through mobile technologies. You have the ability to introduce people who are incredibly relevant to each other, who share interests and are in similar locations in a way that you've never been able to do before on the web. And I think what we see as really impactful is that the web really struggled to have that same reach as mobile is doing with the local businesses. So.
Great. Matthew.
My name is Matthew Cowan. I'm the CEO and co-founder of BreezeWorks. We're a software platform for service professionals like plumbers, locksmiths, electricians, to help them enable or manage their business end-to-end, everything from scheduling appointments, generating estimates, invoices, and collecting payment. The reason we started the company and the reason we're passionate about what we're doing is, as much as there's a lot that's very exciting about the on-demand economy, there's a lot of dangers as well. And we're, I think, at the beginning stages of the next Walmart effect, if you will. Used to be in many small communities. There were independent-owned hardware stores and all kinds of other businesses. All those businesses, or the vast majority, are put out of business today. And the people that used to own those businesses now work as cashiers at Walmart. And we're, I think, at risk that same thing happens for a lot of other industry segments. And so we really wanted to empower small service businesses, say 20 technicians or less, to have the technology tools to remain independent if they choose to remain independent, and not to have technology used as a weapon against them. Fully appreciate there's lots of workers that absolutely want to work for on-demand businesses and not be business owners, and that's fantastic. We're really about creating a choice for those that want to remain independent and in control of their own destiny.
Great. And Manoj.
Hi, Manoj Verma. I run business development for Payability. We're a payment acceleration company that provides a platform for capital and platform to accelerate the speed at which workers and suppliers can get paid. The worker or supplier would elect to get paid faster. We advance the cash, and the marketplace actually pays us on their normal terms, so it's balance sheet neutral to the marketplace. We charge a small fee to the supplier or worker for the accelerated capital. And for us, one of the reasons we got into this business was recognizing that in the ad tech space, where an app developer or a content producer would wait for net 30 or net 60 to get paid, if they're able to get their capital faster, they could reinvest that into hiring either new workers, creating new content, or even into increased marketing. And we're now starting to expand into on-demand, which is a very large growing segment where the supplier or worker should get the right to choose when they want to get paid. So if you see all the ads for Uber drivers where it's like, work now, choose your hours, you have the choice for flexibility, but why can't you have the flexibility to get paid faster if you choose to want it?
And so what we have here, represented by the various companies, are pieces of the way that we're going to build new relationships with workers. I strongly believe that what has happened is we're moving from an environment in which there was a dyadic relationship between seller and buyer to one in which there's a marketplace facilitator who is a third party between two customers, not a customer and a buyer or seller, but really two sellers, two customers. They have a lot of different exchanges going on. And Matthew, you told me a story that really woke me up to some of this. As you initially built only an app for the phone, but then had to build something for the back end and back in the office. And it turned out it wasn't necessarily for business purposes. It had to do with allowing the worker to share their location also with their family or their spouse. And that is a completely different set of requirements than we would expect if you were building a tool for a cashier at Walmart.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. You know, a large part of the segment we're targeting are sole proprietors. And our vision for that segment of the market was, you know, one worker, one truck, one phone, go. And just as you say, it turned out that that wasn't sufficient because someone at home, actually in many cases, was a business partner or just a family member that wanted to know what was going on, or maybe they answered the phone and wanted to schedule an appointment. And if someone's sitting in front of a computer with a very large screen, they don't want to be forced to use their phone. And so that kind of cross-platform capability is not a nice to have. It turns out it's essential.
And Megan, the Mighty Bell platform evolved essentially out of Ning, which was an open social networking platform that Gina Bianchini, your CEO, and Mark Andreessen came up with originally. Do you see yourself as a business tool company, a business service provider company, or a media company seeking to be of service to business?
It's a great question. I think what we see, and especially with the growth of the on-demand economy, is that there is a opportunity for local businesses to come together to learn. And you know, we look at the success that we've had with Own It, which is a community that we have built a network with QuickBooks, and it's dedicated to small business success. What we found is that the ability to, you know, when you're in this sole proprietor role and you are, you know, isolated in your profession, the ability to come together to share your stories, to, you know, exchange your experiences, as well as, you know, just lend practical ideas to each other is incredibly empowering for what local businesses need to do to succeed in this competitive market, which is really, you know, move away from competing on convenience and price, and instead focus on, you know, what are the white glove services that we can provide our customers? How are we thinking about, you know, repeatable business and customer loyalty? And, you know, I think additionally, you know, what are the relationships that we're building with customers? And so when we hear and see kind of the conversations that are happening in our social networks, you know, across a variety of professions, teachers, you know, students learning to code, what we see is that they are all coming together to really focus on those ideas. You know, repeat business and relationships are the Achilles heel of the on-demand economy.
So one of the things we see is that the responsibility for staying skilled up is being pushed down to the worker now. For the last 30 years or so, corporate training was the way that people took their next step in terms of learning. And Matthew, I'd ask you this, because you've obviously dealt with a lot of small businesses. Do they need something, a venue like Mighty Bell, to have those kinds of conversations, to either as a profession, say all carpenters trying to figure out how to be a good carpenter, or as a member of a team, whether FTE or not, to talk about the service experience? And is it legal to do that?
Yeah, great question, and the answer is it's radically different depending on which vertical you're talking about.
Right.
In some of the licensed trades, there's trade associations and groups, and they're actually already part of those communities, maybe not in as much a digital sense, but certainly in an analog face-to-face sense. A lot of other categories, like handymen, for example, which are not licensed, they don't have access to the same experience in the same community, so I think it's very powerful in that case. I wanted to make one other point about repeat business that you brought up before as well, because I think it's a really interesting topic. When you meet with small service provider organizations, I haven't met a single one that said to me one of their top problems is not having enough repeat business. And so in many ways, I think it's the problem they have and they don't know they have it. The way that it manifests and the way that they describe it is all of them like nearly 100% that I talk to, are very angry about how much money they spend on discovery and customer acquisition. And for whatever reason, a lot of them don't connect the dots between, well, if I had more repeat business, I wouldn't need to spend as much money acquiring new customers. And I think that's going to be a real sea change and really power a lot of growth for these businesses when they get that right.
So, and payability is very interesting because the velocity of money is accelerating. Robert Scoble's talk about just being able to walk in and take things from the Apple store was a kind of a frightening idea.
I saw the police out looking for him a lot.
The guy's got 20 power supplies, he's a felon. But the velocity of money is also a benefit that you can extend to on-demand workers, FTEs, that you can use within an organization to accelerate marketing, as you were talking about. What is that worth, and how does payability make its money?
Well, so what we've seen, at least on the app developer side, is that a lot of these app developers that are smaller, typically will end up waiting 30 or 60 days for capital. They're maxing out their credit cards. They're not able to get debt from either the marketplaces themselves or from a bank, and potentially their only source of other external funding would come in the form of equity if they're able to do that. But getting the accelerated capital allows them to actually reinvest that into more marketing, which helps them grow. And that's for them, that's their lifeblood. And for a lot of businesses out there, and it's not just endemic to the ones that we work with, but just if you look historically across the small businesses, credit crunch kills a lot of companies over time. And it's really the mismatch between AR and AP, and that's what we're trying to solve for a lot of the small businesses. But also in today's day and age, I spent the last 3-4 years at MasterCard, and so very familiar with financial products and understanding why, historically we got paid every 2 weeks. It's just historically people had to write the checks every 2 weeks. Now everything is electronified. There's no reason why companies are keeping that capital for float purposes or anything else. So it's particularly in the form today when on-demand is growing and people can choose to actually work when they want to get work, and if they're incurring expenses up front. So one of the big deals that I did when I was at Uber was creating a credit product for the drivers that allowed the driver to actually use a credit card to pay for their fuel, because that was a huge expense for the drivers. Because like Uber, they're not getting paid for a week to 10 days. So if you look at a lot of the other on-demand workers or in other areas where there's significant expenses paid up front, is there an opportunity for someone to actually recover that quickly and get paid? And that's what we're trying to solve for.
And compared to, say, Cabbage, which is essentially a loan company,
right?
Paul and other companies like this, how do you differentiate?
Yeah, so we don't lend. We're not a lender. We effectively buy the receivable from the individual and then collect on the payable from the platform or marketplace. So for the supplier or worker, we're basically converting that AR to cash. So they'll sell it to us at a slight discount, and we're trying to be reasonable in terms of how we think about that. And we're looking at it. We're still playing with different rates, but it's effectively a PayPal fee that the supplier or worker would pay, depending also on the risk and the term of the payable that we're picking up. But they're able to take that capital and then reinvest it or do whatever they need to do with that money.
And Matthew, what are the features and services that you're looking to build in to create additional benefits for that supplier customer I was describing before? How do you have to invest in keeping somebody on your platform?
Well, I think the platform by its very nature is very sticky. It's like a Salesforce.com in the sense that we become the canonical information store of all their customers, all their job history, photographs of their jobs, on and on. And so I think that part's very sticky. Certainly, we're always looking for new ways to add more value. And I do think connecting our customers with suppliers, and in some ways giving the ability of group purchasing and the ability to get better discounts for small service professionals will be one way that we will accomplish that. And that will allow us to connect the right suppliers with the right customers, but have the benefits of volume purchasing.
And so you have essentially a flat monthly fee at this point at various tiers.
Correct.
And do you anticipate growing revenue and margin by adding essentially a la carte services you add onto that, or do you continue to reconfigure the tiers?
I think it's a real core business principle for us that we do not charge a percentage of jobs. Because fundamentally we're in the data business, and we don't want to create a dynamic where a plumber says, "Oh, I'm replacing this water heater. It's a really big job. It's the best job I'm ever going to get. I'm not sharing that with BreezeWorks," and that breaks the data model.
Right.
So we're not really looking to nickel and dime our customers with a la carte special things, but we might have additional services like group purchasing, where there may be some margin dollars that accrue to BreezeWorks. I also think downstream that there's an opportunity around the data side of this business in terms of monetizing that in a derivative data sense. And we will know more about what goes on in this 20 technician or less market segment, I think, than has ever been known before. And maybe it's a good opportunity to talk about market size for a moment. So, we started this business and did the usual kind of research and came across some data that said there's about 2.2 million businesses in the United States that are service provider organizations with 20 employees or technicians or less across the obvious usual categories like plumbers, locksmiths, electricians. But as we started this business, we've discovered it's probably much bigger than that. And I can't make this up. The categories that have come across are mind-boggling. So we have someone on our platform that their business is they're a pet masseuse. They come to your house and they massage your pet.
Nice.
And then there's other categories of businesses we knew that existed, but we didn't think that they would be a fit for us. Like we have a bail bondsman who comes to you and works out your bail deal. I haven't been through that yet, but we'll get Scoble connected when they take them away. And on and on. So these businesses are with the other one. Horse dentist.
Okay.
Strange.
I don't know whether everybody's seen Rick and Morty, but Mom is a horse doctor.
Yes.
Horse heart surgeon. It's a funny show. Sorry, that digression didn't matter. How does Mighty Bell plan to grow and monetize the service? Is it going to be a private business networking service, as you sort of indicated before? And do you see tie-ins to things with the learning opportunities, or perhaps providing services on a contract basis to a set of providers for training, for instance? So a new pet masseuse joins, and one of the invitations they get is to join the Mighty Bell Pet Masseuse community. Do you see that sort of evolution of your business happening?
Yeah, so I think the beauty of building your own modern social network on mobile is the end niche markets are kind of endless. I think I'll kind of first answer kind of the question of niche, and then we can talk about model. So first on the network side, I think what we see today that's more common is with a network like Own It for our small business owners, or similarly we have networks for teachers, and really focused on that first 5 years where you have the most critical fall off rate. 70% of educators will leave the profession in the first 5 years. What we find is that teachers of all kinds, small business owners of all kind, are attracted to kind of seeing what everyone else is, because ultimately when you talk to them, they really have 3 core issues, right? Like getting customers is critical. Am I pricing my product or service right? And what can I do to acquire new customers and grow? And so I think for the pet masseuse, where we see the opportunity initially is that they can come in to Own It. They can be, immersed amongst other people who are growing their businesses,
in the larger
similar
community.
stage in the larger community. And then the beauty of our services is that it's actually very smart software. So because we are, serving up the most relevant members to you based on data that you're providing to the network, you're actually, asked, what's your profession, what's your specialty? And, dog walkers is a huge category in the 80,000 people who are in Own It today. And I can definitely see where, as the pet masseuse market grows, that would be an increasing opportunity. But
So this is a formal announcement of a pet masseuse strategy?
well, that's the beauty.
Breaking news.
Anyone can create a mobile network at any time. So yeah, if the pet masseuse sees the opportunity, we encourage that. When we think about what the model looks like, I think going back to the fact that you really need someone who is passionate about the interests, the space or the profession that they're offering the network for. And we love to work with people who have that very clear eye towards the market. So whether that be, an individual entrepreneur or a large company, and the beauty of the kind of value that, mobile smartphones are unlocking is that there are a lot of new ways to, bring that network to people to be in their hands all the time, and creates opportunity for those companies, which we also support through API integrations.
So we have about 5 minutes left, but I'd like each of you, because you've all looked at this on-demand market and the evolution of that percolation of logistics down into the lower part of the economy from the enterprise world where it was invented. Given the fact that money can move much faster today, where, Manoj, do you see important gaps emerging in the market where there are on-demand opportunities because of the ability to pay rapidly, coordinate the service, and potentially train remote workers with a community latched onto your service?
It's a good question. I mean, I think certainly I'm a big fan of the on-demand economy for both 1099s and employees. We see, and certainly some of the signs that I've seen in the market today, I mean, we're obviously putting together tools where we can do, instant payouts so that someone can finish a job at 5 o'clock, at 5:01 the money's in their DDA account or on their prepaid card or however they want to be able to access that capital. When I look at some of the movements that like Lyft announced last month, where they're doing instant payouts for drivers that accrue a certain amount of volume, Uber will be doing the same thing. These guys are the 8,000-pound gorillas that are going to set the standard for the industry, and it's equivalent to Amazon announcing free shipping, where the rest of the industry is going to have to follow suit. And so I'm very excited about sort of where that's going in the next year, specifically with regards to new verticals. I think just on-demand is sort of showing us that there is a business for a pet masseuse. I mean, I wouldn't have thought about starting a business doing that, but potentially there are businesses where someone is going to do that. Now, if we could help sort of grow that business by providing capital to take that first leap, because they can get paid, because maybe they're servicing the greater LA area and it's expensive for them to do it. They don't want to wait a couple of weeks. That's there. I think we're looking at a broad base of areas for future growth, whether it's labor marketplaces, it's content platforms. If you look at what Hulu, Amazon, and Netflix are doing in terms of buying original short-form content, longer-form content, we're not even really addressing that market right now, but that's just not even in the U.S. It's across the globe.
So an on-demand liberal arts.
If you want to create content, sure. These guys are going to be able to purchase content. I mean, I think there was an article in the Journal earlier this week talking about the fact that I think there's how many new forms. I think there's like 30 new series that Netflix is actually producing, their own original series, and that's just in the U.S., let alone internationally. So these guys are buying a lot of content, and there's going to be a lot of opportunity for people to create work for themselves or work with other companies to do this, and then it's just going to be it's still leaving a gap in terms of when people get paid. And if we can actually accelerate the capital to help these guys grow faster or reinvest, then that's kind of what we're looking at.
And Matthew, given your ability to provide the services to organize your business, obviously the pet masseuse has stretched your concept of what you might be supporting, but given that you're thinking bigger than you originally were, where are you looking now for additional growth? Are there new categories? Have you considered facilitation of non-physical delivery in addition to physical delivery services?
We have. There's so much opportunity. It's sort of hard to prioritize what to do next. But I think at the moment we're just scratching the surface for the on-demand service part of the economy, let alone thinking about other opportunities like that. And frankly, I think we might go international before diversifying too much outside of that.
Okay, so
yeah.
Are there areas you see gaps where you've thought, why on earth is there not an on-demand or at least a small business solution that can fit better into the data economy?
I see more than a gap. I mean, in terms of the capabilities of what our platform has today, as well as where the platform's going, I see just a huge white space, frankly. And another way of looking at it is, we seek to take the kind of ERP, CRM, alphabet soup of capabilities that enterprises have had access to for a very long time, and offering it to a segment of the workforce that really has been untouched by technology yet. That's why I call it a big white space. To me, it's bigger than a gap. And long term, I think that underlying that is the ability to really be a business optimization platform and to offer prescriptions of how these businesses can scale and grow with one little change at a time in real time.
And Mighty Bell can obviously support that kind of dialogue and extract that kind of learning to support that recommendation business. Is that another area where you may be able to facilitate content creation for use by companies in the on-demand economy?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is that the data is incredibly valuable for a number of reasons. How do I tailor my products? How do I find the white space and opportunities? And how do I reduce my cost of acquisition? So a lot of the enterprise customers that we're working with are really clued into how do I take the data that's being generated from these conversations that people are having, to really move those services forward and improve the sales that I'm doing every year. And I think, you know, what we see with the growth of the on-demand economy is that there are still challenges. You know, the ability to consistently, you know, deliver the same quality of work is a huge issue. And so using, you know, a network like Mighty Bell to unite the people who are, you know, in other ways isolated in their profession, to really, you know, share best practices, to have practical ideas, things that they can take back to their business the next day and grow sales is going to be a critical opportunity for growth for us.
Well, great. Well, we are at the end of our session. Thank you each. Manoj,
Thank you.
Matthew, and Megan.